which is one thing we can talk about.
Not really. No, I don't remember what I did last night.
We both devoured your book.
Oh, thank you.
So fantastic.
I love it.
If you have not read it, read it. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And I wanted to start off by asking you about, because one of my favorite parts of the book was your time as a showgirl in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And how is it, you mentioned that Vegas is so different today. What is it like going to Vegas these days as opposed to its heyday?
Oh, I do not even go today.
Yeah.
Back then it was like 7, 8 main hotels on the Strip, the Sands, the Riviera, the Desert Inn. And, it was like the Rat Pack was playing there, I mean, okay, wow, this is really aging my But I mean, you could drive down the Strip, park in the free parking lot. You could go, I was just talking to a friend of mine from Vegas who was there since 1959. He's 90 years old. I just had a birthday dinner with him. He was the choreographer for my show, Viva La Girls, at the Dunes. But he said he used to remember when you used to go in and they'd have buffets and they were free. All the buffets were free. I had to pay $1.69 for all you could eat. That was like by 1969. So, I mean, like you could go in a hotel, whole big buffet of every kind of food, steak, prime rib, blah, blah, blah. $1.69 all you could eat. I mean, is that crazy, man? Okay, now, if you go there, have you guys been there lately, anybody?
Yeah.
I mean, man, you can't even get breakfast for like under, I don't know, $50 or something. And it's not that great.
No.
No. And I mean, no parking anywhere. You can't drive down the Strip. It's just like, I can't handle it. I wish we could, let's get Christopher Lloyd and go back to the future. But my dream is like to build old Vegas somewhere in the desert. If I get $1 billion from you guys, I'm going to go out to the desert and just build like old style 50s Vegas. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yes.
Hey, let me tell you, the mob was a lot more honest than the corporate people who own it now.
Don't doubt it.
And that's saying something, everybody.
Yeah.
Well, I did a little bit of the math when I was reading the book because you mentioned just the first
Mexican
con.
Coke.
And, it seems that this is your 45th anniversary of cons, like horror cons. And so seeing the evolution of where it's gone, because one of the best revelations in here is when you're like, oh, I could just show up and get a signature for $100 and I don't have to do anything. Like, this is amazing. And that was a revelation then, but seeing the evolution of just the con experience itself, what are you, similar to what we were discussing with Vegas, do you think there are a lot of positives that have changed about it? Do you, especially seeing how ubiquitous the genre has become now by comparison, does it still feel like an outside culture thing? What would you
I mean, it's gotten so different since I started, and you guys are gonna you're gonna kill me, but when I started, I was selling my signature for $5. It was like a free buffet. I'm like, $5 a pop, man. And I was like, $5 for signing my name. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. And that was like at car shows. Like, I was going out to like Chino doing a car show. All the hot rods out there, and I was like, signing autographs, and everybody was so happy. It was like awesome. And anyway, car shows were like how celebrities, did autographs back then, and they would only usually have one celebrity. And I don't know, there'd be a bunch of cars, and then you sign your name, again, $5. And I did go to a really early, San Diego Comic-Con. And it was in the basement of some hotel, in the basement, and there were only guys. I was the only woman. There were guys selling autographs, and there were just guys traveling around, in little packs of 2 or 3, how they do? Guys coming up, getting your autograph. That was Comic-Con.
Wow.
Isn't that freaky, man?
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, the evolution of cons, boy, I mean, what a big difference, And I think Comic-Con San Diego was probably largely responsible for that. you know, and they were more pop culture. But then I like how the horror cons kind of became offshoots of that. And so, I mean, I love going to this specifically more horror con, like creepy con here. Because you know why? The fans are the best. They're the nicest. And I'm not kidding. I'm not blowing smoke up your room. I'm not kidding. Once I was at a con, and there was a lounge, and we were getting something to drink or something. And the waitress was there, and they had conventions all the time. And I said, "Who's the worst people you've had at conventions, and who's the best?" She said, "You know who the best is? The horror cons." She said they tip, they're polite, they pick up their stuff, they clean up things that they're so nice.
Well, speaking of horror, you lived in your own sort of horror movie for a little bit. You lived in a haunted house. Can you tell us a little bit about your own experience with the paranormal?
I will, and this is no joke, everybody. I lived in this house in Hollywood, which you can drive by if you ever go there. It's called Briarcliff Manor, and it's on Briarcliff Road, and it was built in 1901. Huge old craftsman-style home. Now, I never had any freaky, haunted stuff happen to me before in all the places I lived. I never had any happen to me in all the places I've lived after. In Briarcliff, it was non-freaking stop. From the day we moved in. I mean, the first thing that happened to me is we're moving in, we have our moving van, my husband and I tell the movers, don't put anything on the third floor. There was one big room on the third floor that it just had windows all around the whole thing. And I said, don't put anything up there because we don't know what we're gonna do with that room. So I'm on the second floor putting boxes away, and I hear on the ceiling. And then I look up and I kind of see the ceiling vibrating. And I'm like, oh my God, they're up there. What the hell are they doing? I run up the little skinny stairway. I go, you guys, please, I told you not. When I got up there, nobody was there. Nobody was there. That was the first thing that happened. That was the day we moved in. After that, I found out, now I can't remember exactly, I believe there were 5 deaths in the house. I have to read my own book to remind me. 5 that we found out were deaths that were in violent ways, murders, suicide. Who did I have? What's his name? Mark Hamill. This was such a trip. Mark Hamill came over one night for dinner, and he came driving up the driveway, and he came walking up and said, I cannot believe this. I can't believe this. I lived here. It was my dorm house when I was in college at USC. Mark Hamill said, oh my God, I lived here, for a year, and he said, it was really sad because my best friend, or my roommate, I don't know if it's a best friend, hung himself in your closet. So I gotta tell you how uncomfortable it was to sleep in my bedroom every night, looking across at the closet door, because things were creaking and moving, windows were slamming, doors were slamming. Things you'd put here would end up in another room the next day. I mean, and it wasn't just with me, it was with my ex-husband, who's not a big believer in all that stuff. There was a shadow going around the bottom of our pool. That was one of the creepiest things.
That story is really creepy.
Yeah, the pool was built in, I can't remember what year, but like 1921, something like that. First pool built in Hollywood. And whenever I'd go in there, I don't swim, but I'd float around on a raft. And I'd see the shadow on the bottom going around. And I told my husband, he goes, oh, it's got to be from the trees, the sun casting. And I noticed, well, it's moving around down there. The trees aren't moving around. And we found out later, we got a clipping from a neighbor that said, in the early 20s, one of the girls at the, what was it called? Now I can't, not
Ziegfeld Follies.
I'm sorry?
Ziegfeld Folly Girls.
Thank you, Ziegfeld Folly Girls. Yeah, I gotta say, I told you I gotta read my own book to remind me. They had, at the opening of the pool, they invited all these celebrities, they cover it with flowers, the whole top, and then the next day when they pulled the flowers off, they found one of those girls at the bottom of the pool. she had fallen through and nobody noticed because it was covered in flowers. But anyway, just stuff non-freaking stop like that at this house. I was ready to move. I was begging my husband, I gotta get out of here, I can't stand this. And then we brought in a Native American shaman who went through the whole house and blessed it and saged it. Then we brought in a priest. We were hedging our bets, you know. Brought in a priest. He walked around with like a little smoke pot thing. Everything went away. Everything was calm. Nothing else ever happened. I swear I never locked my doors in the house again. I was in the middle of Hollywood. I just felt so comfortable and so safe there. But it was just the weirdest thing, honestly. And I had so many friends come and stay there who said, and they were not crazy about staying at the house. Saw a man sitting in a chair in front of our fireplace. When I came downstairs, just sitting in the chair, wouldn't speak to me, didn't say anything. I saw a woman come in the middle of the night into our bedroom and stand next to the side of the bed staring at my husband. She said, I said, what are you doing? She said, I'm going to take him. I should have said, oh, good. But at the time, I didn't think, I wasn't thinking fast enough. But stuff like that. And I had two Rottweilers, Vlad and Bella, and they would stand in the middle of a room at night when it was pitch black. I would just see them standing there growling at something in the dark, just like, nothing would be there. It was creepy. And I sold the house to Brad Pitt. Yeah, so, and he loved it. I told him the stories, and he was like, oh man, I hope that happens. Unfortunately, you know, we had the house cleansed, and I don't think, and when I did see it, he said, I haven't seen it.
Wow.
I haven't seen it yet.
I fixed it. I mean, you had an it factor, we all know that. But it's like you had it from such a young age, like you're so charismatic. What was it like being amongst some of these legends, Jimi Hendrix and Jimmy Page?
Yeah, I mean, it's so weird. People go, how would you have met them? I put myself in a place where I could meet them. That's what and I don't really say no to things, you know. I mean, I'm like, I don't know if I like that loud. I mean, okay, I didn't put that the right way. But that's true. But I mean, I won't take no for an answer. That's what I meant. Okay. You know, people say, hey, you can't, no, I'm sorry, you can't come backstage. I go around and I climb in the window. That's how we do that. I'm not kidding you. I stood on my sister's shoulder and climbed in the back window of the Buffalo Springfield dressing room. I hid in a trunk in a bus for Paul Revere and the Raiders. And I couldn't get out, and they drove all the way to Denver, and I got in so much trouble. I was at like 13 or 14, and it's like, I'm in Denver. I got to call my parents to come get me 75 miles away. But stuff like that. I just don't take no for an answer.
Did you feel like that freedom, though, gave you your independence faster? And like, made you realize like the realities of the world faster also? Like, is there like a silver lining to that approach as well?
Yeah, I was not a latchkey kid. I was very like, you get home from school, you go there, my mom was there, and if you were late, you were in big trouble. And so I think I went the opposite way. I broke out. You know, I was like almost helicopter, being helicopter parented. By the time my sisters came along, they were like, you know, here, take the car. You know, I don't care. But I was the firstborn, so. Yeah, I think I've lived in such a cloistered little life, so parents be careful with that, because if you're watching every second, telling them what to do, how to do it, one day they just break out. I'm a showgirl in Las Vegas.
Those are some of my favorite moments from the books where your mom's like, okay, I'll sew your go-go girl uniform. Like, I'll just do it. Here's the tassels. I'll just do it for you.
Yeah, my mom and my aunt, I've made them sew my little fringy bras, you know, that glow in the dark, and sew my little bikinis, and then later my pasties. They made that bra with the pasties on, my mom and my aunt.
They had a costume shop, right?
They did. They ran and owned a costume shop, so they were kind of the only people in town prepared to do that, you know, to make these kind of costumes.
Yeah, which I'm sure it inspired some of your love of Halloween.
Absolutely. Halloween was a big deal at my house, and that was back when it wasn't really that big a deal. It was like, oh, trick or treat with the kids, you know? And at my house, it was this is our money-making time. And it still is.
You said it wasn't a big deal, and like you made it a big deal.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, what's interesting so much, reading this book is, you see a lot of things and you read about the behind the scenes of stuff that we've seen optics-wise when we walk into stores. I mean, see the IP everywhere. But to see like the kind of journey of where it went to is really fascinating, because a lot of times today, despite having all the information available to us, we forget about context and what it was. And so the idea of what Halloween has become and how it was an adult holiday, and now it's become, fairly ubiquitous in the same way a horror is. I have to imagine it's got to be like, every time October rolls around, you're like, well, you did well.
I feel like I sort of came, Halloween wasn't a big deal, and I think Elvira had something to do with making it big. I think the main people that have something to do with making it big were the gays. Because, Halloween was a much bigger deal among gay people. Oh my God, Santa Monica Boulevard in Hollywood. None of you are probably old enough to have gone there, but man, that was like where you went to celebrate on Halloween. And of course, I hung out with nothing but gay men. So, we were dressing up in costumes like nobody's business. They were doing my hair. I mean, we were so big time into it. And I think, a lot of that gave me the love of Halloween and of, like, it was a big deal and we couldn't wait for it, and dressing up, it was so fun. And so I hope Elvira and the gays, are responsible for making Halloween what it is today, which is like a lifestyle to me, and to a lot of people, I think.
I can imagine. Well, that's what I was thinking too with your, growing up around these elaborately made costumes. I mean, now you come to these conventions and people are dressed up and they're doing their own. Like, that must be incredible to see. Like, Elvira, I remember growing up, you were in costume and it was so interesting, out of context, out of Halloween, at different times of year, and it was so like, oh, you can do, it's like you gave people permission to do that.
I hope so. I wish I wouldn't have given permission to Christine Nome to do that. Yes, but everybody else, yes. Everybody else, yes. I love that Halloween isn't just on the 31st anymore. It's before, it's after. It's anytime you want to come to a convention and have a little bit of Halloween. And I think it's very freeing for people to be able to dress up as kind of a fantasy thing, or a thing that they really enjoy or worship, or, you get to be another person for a day, and try on different characters, different personalities.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, what was it like when you first started seeing other Elviras pop up at these conventions to come?
Oh, it was weird. I mean, I was just so like, what? And I was like, oh, God, no. No, I love it, but I see it all the time. And the tattoo thing was another thing, man. First time I had somebody show me a tattoo of myself on their body, I'm going, that's permanent, And I could hardly believe my eyes. I was just falling over. And now I gotta say, pretty damn ubiquitous. Especially around here, I must have seen, I don't know, this weekend, 50, maybe, tattoos, yeah. I love it. Hey, nothing says flattery like having your ass tattooed on something.
I wanted to talk about the Elvira look because I didn't know that there was the alternative and that you had another original design. And they were like,
for the cover?
Like, yeah, for the original design for when you first got onto the TV for it. And you had that pitch for it. And do you ever wonder of the what ifs if the the execs weren't like, or you got to be in black, you got to be this, like if you could have done the original approach that you had. Have you ever thought about where that could have?
Who knows about that? But yeah, the original approach, they said I had to come up with a spooky, sexy woman character, and my best friend at the time, this guy named Robert Redding, and I sat down and go, ooh, how do we make it look? And we did not want to go with the old like Morticia Adams, Vampira, the black, long tight dress. We did not want to go that way. And black hair, because I refused to wear a wig. I was like, I'm not wearing a wig, every day. And I ended up wearing a wig. the TV show, the TV station, Channel 9, KHJ, said, you have to wear black. It has to be black hair. It has to be a black dress. Yeah, so we're like, oh, okay. Then I get crap for like stealing people's characters. That I didn't want to come up with that. We had like a tattered pink ghost kind of gown thing, all shredded with my own hair that we were going to make long and wavy and very pale, dead girl kind of look, with the big dark eyes underneath and white lips. And they were just like, no. So, hey, I was getting paid. I had to do what they said. So we came up with trying to make the same old vampire kind of look. And I say vampire generically, like a female vampire look, but, with a little different edge to it. Some little bracelets with some little spiky studs on it, and the hairdo from the Ronettes.
That's cool.
And different things like that. So we did what we could, but that was basically it.
Have you seen deep cut fans that have come back with the original and you're like, wow, that's some deep cut knowledge that you know about this design. Have you ever seen anyone dress up in that the way that you described it in the book and stuff originally?
I have not.
Yeah.
That would be good to do. I know it was kind of based on Sharon Tate from the Fearless Vampire Killers. If you ever saw that movie. Yeah, that was the idea we had. Direction we were going.
I love that when you came to the audition for Elvira, you didn't dress up. And I love when you talk about everybody else kind of side-eyeing you, like you're supposed to dress up.
It was so embarrassing. They did not tell me to dress up, and I'm in a room full of people with vampire fangs and black leotards and black hair, and I'm sitting there, a little turquoise dress on, white, black sandals, and candies. Remember those shoes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I love. And I'm going, oh my God! It was like going to a party and you're dressed completely wrong. That's how it was. And I thought, oh boy, this isn't going to work out good. And luckily, I really think it was my Groundlings improv chops that got me the gig, because I don't think anybody else was funny. They looked good, but there was some that looked much better than I did that day. But I think the director, he was a pretty funny guy, Larry Thomas, and I think he liked the shticky thing, and I kind of made up my script. I did not read the script they gave me, which was so stupid and so bad, and it really was. So I just kind of improvised, and got the part. Here I am.
The Groundlings, can you digress on this area a little bit? Because I think, when you read on just the rigmarole of everything that was a part of it, the fact that you guys did everything from even washing the bathrooms to working out and doing the ticketing and also writing the things. And then would you say that was probably the big crossroads moment for you, like in terms of just pivotal and changing, even finding out certain talents that you had that you maybe knew but were able to get more pronounced? Was that the real bridge for you, do you think?
Well, I know that if I had not been in the Groundlings and taken those classes for 4.5 years and performed on stage with them, I know I wouldn't be doing Elvira. I absolutely know. It was completely, not so much pivotal as, I don't know, I just couldn't, I just wouldn't have had the chops to do it. I definitely wouldn't. And then, Pee Wee Herman was in there, Paul Rubens, Phil Hartman from Saturday Night Live, Ray Newman from Saturday Night Live. I mean, all these brilliant people. And I learned so much from them, and John Paragon, who was my co-writer and wrote Movie Macabre with me every week. He played Johnny the Genie from Pee Wee's Playhouse. Mm-hmm. And he was brilliant. They've all passed away now, John, Lynn, Paul. It's unbelievable. It really is.
Yeah, thanks.
And Phil, all gone. Anyway, I learned so much from them and being around them and doing comedy with them. I couldn't do this job without that education, So, yeah, I have a lot to know. And by the way, the Groundlings are still happening like crazy in Hollywood. And if you guys ever go see their show, it's on every weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They're amazing people in there. So good, so good. So, if you ever want to really have fun in Hollywood, go see the Groundlings.
I was going to ask if you ever drop by there nowadays.
I do once in a while. I did a show with Lynn Stewart, who played Missy Bond from Pee Wee. Oh, it's night time.
No.
What's happening? The lights are. Missy Bond, Lynn Stewart, who just passed away, And she and I did a little improv thing there. That was the last time I was there. It was so fun. I swear to God, we had the most fun. If you can probably find it online. It was so funny. I don't know. She and I were just like, we just didn't give a rat's ass anymore. We were just saying and doing the craziest stuff. But that was the last time I was there. And yeah, once in a while I'll do a little, show up and do little benefits or whatever for them. But it's a great place to go. It's a great place to take classes if anybody's interested, of course, in comedy improv. But it's also a great place just to go have fun.
And I feel like that they were the reason for you. You had this crossroads in the book where you auditioned for Ginger for a remake of Gilligan's Island, yes, which I think you would have been a perfect Ginger. And you said you found out years later that it was a moment at the Groundlings, and that is why you did not get Ginger.
Yeah, I didn't get the part because I did a bit in the Groundlings that was me at a gynecologist's office. So, we all had our clothes on, don't get too excited. But yeah, the casting director decided that they didn't want that element in a show on NBC. I was like, what the hell? Okay, back then things were weird, man. I was just talking to somebody here today who was saying, I remember when you first came on with that dress, that was so scandalous. Yes. And it was, dude, back then. You have to be really old to remember this. I mean, now everybody on the Grammys wears the same neckline.
The same cut, yes.
Same neckline. And when I was wearing that, I am not kidding, people were just like, I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was pretty shocking back then, but
Did it feel, well, you had a background in being a showgirl and everything, so I'm sure.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, people would go, what do your parents think about you wearing a dress like that? And I said, my parents are just happy I'm wearing anything. They really were. They were. They're like, oh, fine, she's covered up.
But it was so wild is that, it was such a conservative time too, that like you literally had companies that were getting market research that saw that this look was generating money for them, like, even with the chorus thing, and they're still like, oh no, cover it up, and you're like, no, it is covered up, but having said that, it's also still making you sales, and they'd be like, no, we still gotta go in the morality thing now, and it's such a 180 from where we are today, where it's just like, now it's like we're as desperate as possible to get everything. It's like, or what can we get away with on our marketing and stuff now?
Yeah,
and
it is.
Do you see it now and you'd be like, was it better that you had the red tape to kind of fight against? Because did it make you feel more creative, or do you kind of envy some of the things today where it feels like a little more carte blanche, open book, laissez-faire?
Oh no, this goes a little too carte blanche today.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. Maybe it was. Maybe I did it because I had fight against it. See, that's how I grew up with my parents. If my parents said no, I did it anyway. So this was kind of like, you can't wear that. I'm like, oh really? And then I did it anyway. Oh, it's so funny. They used to come in all the time and say, we got several complaints. You have to cover up. You have to make the neckline higher. I go, okay, all right. I'd come back next week. I wouldn't make it higher. And they'd come in and say, did you make it higher? I go, yes. Anything. That happened so many times. It was insane. So they were supposed to have you cover up, but they didn't really want you to cover up because they were afraid of the ratings, So I'd just go, yeah. And we're all good. Crazy, man. Who knows? Boobs. Like, you gotta cover boobs. Oh, wow. That's so scary.
When was the moment, when do you realize you're becoming a pop culture icon? Which is one thing I appreciate in the book, you're just very aware of it.
Today.
Yeah, today.
Yeah. About an hour ago, let's mark it.
I mean, animations, posters. I mean, you walk through this convention, that has to be bonkers walking through somewhere like this. Not that you really walk around because you can't, but, I imagine you get flooded with people, but your face is everywhere. Your face is everywhere. What does that feel like?
It's awesome in that I own the character. That's what my proudest thing is. I mean, that's like some kind of miracle. I mean, Paul Pee-wee always said to me that he and I are the only two members of a very, very exclusive club. And that is people who made a living off of one character and they own the rights. And I don't know if you guys know what it means, but I mean, most of you do, but you could see, I don't know, somebody from Star Trek or from, I don't know, whatever, I'm trying to think of names and I'm like blanking out. Any movie or show that's on anywhere, they cannot. The actors don't own any of it. They can go out and sign their name, but they can't make action figures. I mean, the studio makes action figures and sells them. If they're lucky, the actors make 1 cent or so off of each one. I make them and I get 100%. So, I mean, it's really pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people could do that anymore, because I think
They got hip to it.
you could create a character, and if it was on anywhere that you would see it, they would be smart enough to know that they would own the rights. You wouldn't get a chance to own them.
Yeah, that decision, which is like such a cool moment, because I imagine in the moment it wasn't like, oh yeah, we got to get this done, but in hindsight it's like, oh my gosh, if we didn't have that positive thought to be like, okay, let's get the rights, let's fight to get these rights.
Yeah, it really kind of happened accidentally.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I set out, I knew I had to do it.
It's so cool how that happened.
Now they're all thinking about it, so the chances of doing that again are pretty slim. Different world.
Yeah. But you had,
the dying breed.
I mean, even thinking about how you've built your brand, you've kind of set the template a lot of things. I mean, like one of the big core components, I think, with horror going broad and mainstream has been something like, theme parks doing like, Halloween Horror Nights and all. Well, you started that, I mean, not only were you part of, Not Scary Farm, but you also
how many people out there went to Not Scary Farm? The Owl Club is here, yay! Some of my oldest, dearest fans who came to every damn Not show there was, right? Yeah. Yep, whole family who came every night. I know, some hardcore, diehard fans out here from Knott's. Knott's really was, I loved doing the Halloween Haunt. It was just so fun. I mean, it was hard work. But I loved doing it. I loved my fans out there, and I loved the show. They always did a great job putting it on, and I got to put all my creative, inspiration into it, and it was just super fun.
Yeah.
I miss doing it. It's a bummer.
Oh yeah, getting to see you in person, I remember as a kid it was awe-inspiring, honestly. Like just getting to see you in the flesh, I was like, she's real. She's not just
in the flesh and not in the gel. Yeah, no, it's not, I had been there so long that a lot of fans, started coming when they were little kids, and then years later I'd see them and they would be there with their kids. I mean, my social media guy was a little boy. I met him at Knott's, and he still does all my social media, my Instagram page and everything. He snuck in with his mom backstage, and now he's my social media guy.
Well, that just speaks to the community of horror too, and it's just like we all. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why these cons and expos are so important, is because it is like a summer camp. And we do kind of just, we trade stories, and, it's like, oh, I got the variant of this and whatever. And it, I think a big part of what you've done too is not only build upon that in certain ways, but, even just, you talked about how this was kind of like a boys club when you first started out. And like, that's not the
really
case.
Was.
And
horror movies too.
Yeah.
Women were the victims. That's what women did. They weren't writing any of this stuff. They weren't, it was like a total boys club, the whole horror world,
Well, even when in the book when you mentioned girls, it was hard for women to become rock stars, and that's what you really wanted when you were, chasing. Yeah, and I was like, you did it though. I remember being at the party. I was like, she did it though. It's not like a rock star, but you were bigger than one, honestly.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it was so limited then. Really, I loved rock music, and I, like I say in the book, if I couldn't be one, I was going to be with one, a rock star. So I did pretty good at that part. but anyway, there were a lot less opportunities for women in this whole world. And now I'm so happy to see all the horror, everything, films, books, everything. Starring women, having women be, the lead in them. That we're having, just authoring things.
Directing now.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I'm so damn happy about that.
Well,
And it's so damn great out there and creative. And,
we're so happy that you're here today, and that
Thank
you've
you.
also given us an incredible legacy. And again, I can't stress it enough. It's not like I'm Good Morning America right now or whatever.
She
But
didn't ask us to do this.
check out her
Spoke
book.
so
It's
much.
available at Barnes and Noble. But it's a great read.
you can
And-
also get the audiobook in case you can't read.
Yeah.
And Cassandra reads the audiobook, and having you in my ear, it feels like you're sitting next to me, talking to me. It was amazing. It really made me live in your
It's on
story.
Spotify,
It was
too.
incredible.
Yeah.
We didn't even get to where she met Elvis, so
Yeah.
honestly, read the book.
There's so many stories. It goes to so many places.
I always tell people, when I was writing the book and I was doing the proposal and everything, they said, well, you should start it when you became Elvira. And I go, my life was so much more interesting before I was Elvira.
Honestly.
When I got to be Elvira, everything got calm, normal. Isn't that weird? Yeah, no, before Elvira, it was pretty weird.
It needs to be a movie, honestly.
Yeah, that's the first thing I was thinking. Yeah.
You're shocked on every page. It's incredible.
Yeah,
You know.
thank you. Yeah, shock on every page. That's about it. I know. When people come by and get the book, I say, "Have you read it yet?" And then they say no, and I say, "I hope you still come back after you do it." I'm not so sure.
No, I honestly, you'll fall in love with it even more because it's just again, not to do this spiel, but it's a great read, and honestly, you find out so many stories and things that are far more than just Elvira. It's Cassandra, and I think that's important to read. And Cassandra, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk to us. This has been an absolute pleasure.